The cell was cold, metal walls shining with a dull silver glow. The hum of the human ship pressed into her ears, low and endless, like the heartbeat of some giant machine. Chains bound her wrists, and every movement made the iron cut into her skin. She did not cry. She did not scream. Her people had told her this would happen if she was ever captured. Humans were cruel. Humans were monsters. And soon, she would die by their hands. She waited. Her name was Shira, soldier of the Vayari clans. She had fought until her blade snapped and her body collapsed. Now she was nothing but a prize for the humans, a trophy. The stories of her ancestors filled her mind. Humans do not forgive. Humans do not show mercy. If they smile, it is because they enjoy your pain. Her body trembled, but she forced herself to stay still. If this was her last hour, she would not give them fear. She would give them silence. The door slid open. A man stepped in. He was tall, dressed in dark human armor. His boots echoed on the floor as he walked closer, slow and steady. He did not carry a weapon. That more than anything made her heart race. A weapon would mean a quick death. No weapon meant something worse. The human stopped just a few feet away. His face was calm, unreadable. His eyes, strange pale blue, studied her not like prey, but like a puzzle. He said nothing for a long moment. The silence stretched, heavy, crushing. Sira finally hissed, her voice sharp. "Kill me and be done with it." The man tilted his head, almost like he was curious. Then, at last, he spoke. His voice was low, even, controlled. "You are not here to die." The words struck her harder than any blade. Not here to die? Lies. Humans loved lies. They twisted truth like a blade in the dark. She laughed bitterly. "Do you take me for a fool? My people warned me. Humans torture before they kill. Do it now. I will not beg." The man did not answer. He stepped closer, into the weak light. She saw his face fully now, scarred, tired, marked by battles of his own. This was no soft diplomat. This was a warrior. Still, he only said, "You are safe here." Safe. The word burned in her mind. She wanted to spit at him, to curse his false kindness, but her throat was dry and her body too weak. Still, her spirit fought. Safe. In chains. Safe. When my people rot in your prisons? The human did not flinch. Instead, he reached into a small pouch at his belt. Slowly, carefully, he pulled out something she did not expect. Food. A sealed pack, glowing faintly with human markings. He placed it on the ground, sliding it toward her with his boot. Her stomach twisted. Hunger clawed at her, but pride held her still. She would not eat a human's poison. He seemed to notice her hesitation. "It is clean. I will not force you. But you are wounded. You will not heal without strength." Her heart pounded. What game was this? Kindness before cruelty? Mercy before death? She glared at him, trying to read his eyes, but all she saw was steady calm. The man finally crouched down, lowering himself to her level. His voice softened, though his face remained firm. "You have two choices. Stay in chains and die slowly, or trust me and live." Trust. The word rang strange in her ears, like a sound from another world. No human had ever spoken that word to her. Not in the old stories, not in the songs of war. She whispered back, almost against her will. "Why?" For the first time, his mask broke. Not with cruelty, but with something else, something she had no name for. His gaze dropped, his scarred hands tightening slightly. "Because once, I was a prisoner too." The silence that followed was heavier than before. Zira's breath caught. Was this another trick, or was there truth in his voice? She could not tell. Her heart reamed caution, but her mind whispered doubt. This man did not speak like the monsters from her childhood tales. He spoke like someone carrying a burden of his own. Her chains rattled as she shifted, pressing her back against the wall. She wanted to stay cold, wanted to stay hard, but deep inside, a dangerous seed was planted. Curiosity. The man rose again, his shadow stretching across the cell. "I will return. Decide by then. Trust me, or stay in the dark." He turned and walked away, leaving the food behind. The door hissed shut, sealing her once more in silence. Ira's eyes burned on the small pack lying in the corner. Her body screamed for it. Her pride screamed against it. But louder than both was the question now circling her mind. What if the humans were not monsters? What if this man truly meant what he said? For the first time since her capture, she was not bracing for death. She was bracing for something far more dangerous. Hope. The food pack lay untouched in the corner of the cell. Shira stared at it as if it were a venomous beast waiting to strike. The glowing seal promised nourishment, but to her eyes it was poison wrapped in kindness. She told herself again and again, humans trick before they kill. Her hunger gnawed at her belly like a fire, but she pressed her teeth together and looked away. She would not give them the pleasure of watching her crawl. Yet the man's words echoed in her mind. You are safe here. Trust me, or stay in chains. Trust. That word did not belong in her world. Her people had never trusted humans, never even considered it. She should laugh at the absurdity of it. But his eyes, steady, scarred, weary, would not leave her memory. The sound of the ship shifted. The low hum deepened into a growl as the engines pushed through space. The air vibrated faintly as though the ship itself was restless. She wondered where they were taking her. To a human prison? To a trial? Or perhaps to some battlefield where her body would be displayed as a trophy. Footsteps echoed again. The door hissed open. The Somi man stepped inside. This time he carried something different, a small metallic case. He placed it on a bench across from her. No words, no explanations. He opened it slowly, and inside were thin glass tubes glowing with blue liquid. Medicine. Tira's breath hitched. The stories of her people screamed inside her mind. Humans test their poisons on the weak. Humans use medicine not to heal, but to control. She pressed her back harder into the wall, chains rattling as she hissed like a cornered animal. Do it. Inject your poison. I will not scream. The man's face did not change. Calm, steady. He lifted one of the tubes carefully, as if handling a fragile life. This will close your wounds. Without it, infection will spread. You will not survive the night. Her body betrayed her. The burns on her side throbbed with fire, and every breath sent knives into her chest. She wanted to live, but she would not let him see her fear. She spat onto the floor, forcing her voice steady. Kill me honestly, human. Do not play with me like prey. For the first time, he sighed. A quiet, tired sound, like someone who had carried too many battles. He placed the medicine back in the case, closed it, and slid it toward her with the same motion he had used with the food. Then he stood and stepped back. You decide. I will not force you. He turned toward the door, but before leaving he paused and spoke without facing her. His voice was softer this time, almost quiet enough to be a secret. When I was a prisoner, they forced everything on me. Pain, hunger, lies. I swore if I ever held power, I would never be like them, so I give you choice. And then he was gone. The door sealed. Silence returned. Zira's hands shook. She hated that they shook. She hated that his words pierced her armor more deeply than any blade. A human who claimed to know what it meant to be a prisoner? Impossible. Her people taught that humans never knew weakness. But there was no mocking tone in his voice. No sneer, no hidden smile. Only memory. She dragged herself forward, despite the chains, and stared at the closed case. The faint glow of the medicine painted her skin blue. Her throat tightened. What if it was real? What if it could truly heal her? But the greater question burned hotter. Why would he care if I lived? Her people said humans only cared for conquest. They destroyed, they enslaved, they never saved. Yet this one had brought food, medicine, and words that sounded like mercy. Mercy was more frightening than cruelty. Cruelty she understood, mercy she did not. She forced herself back to the wall, breathing hard. If she accepted his gift, did that make her weak, or did it make her smarter than her ancestors, who died believing in lies? Her head spun with thoughts until the hum of the ship broke again. Alarms blared, loud and sharp. The cell lights flashed red. The floor trembled. The ship had been struck. Her heart raced. Attackers. Another battle? Then the door opened with violent speed. The man returned, but this time his calm mask was gone. His eyes were sharp, urgent. The alarms screamed around him. He rushed to her chains and unlocked them with a swipe of his wrist tool. Metal fell from her arms, her legs clattering to the floor. She blinked in shock, rubbing her bruised wrists. Why? She began. He cut her off. No time. If you want to live, follow me. For a breathless moment, she froze. The chance was before her, freedom. She could escape, run into the chaos, perhaps even find her own people. But to follow him, to trust him? The alarms wailed. The ship shook again. Smoke drifted in through the open door. The man extended his hand. Choose, now. Her heart pounded like thunder. Her people's voices screamed inside her. Do not trust the humans. Never trust. But another voice, quieter, unfamiliar, whispered, what if he speaks truth? Zira's body tensed as she stared at his outstretched hand. Fear clawed at her chest. Not fear of him, but fear of the choice she was about to make. The unknown had never felt so close. The corridors of the human ship shook with each impact. Red lights flashed overhead, alarms screaming through the steel walls. Sira stumbled as the man pulled her forward, his hand gripping her wrist with firm strength. The chains were gone, but the weight of uncertainty clung to her heavier than iron. Every instinct told her to resist, to strike him and run. Yet her body was too weak, her wounds still raw. Each step was a battle, and still he did not slow, did not let go. They turned a corner, sparks flying from broken wires above. Two humans in armor rushed past, shouting to each other, weapons raised. They did not even look at her, the alien prisoner. They only nodded at the man guiding her, as though his word was enough to keep her alive. Why? Why would they trust her in their halls? He led her into a smaller chamber, the door sealed behind them, muting the chaos outside. The alarm still echoed faintly, but here it was quieter, almost like the eye of a storm. Zira pulled her wrist free at last, baring her teeth. "Why not leave me in the cell? I am your enemy. My death would cost you nothing." The man finally faced her. His pale eyes glowed faintly in the red emergency lights. His voice was calm again, though urgency still clung to him. "You are not my enemy. War makes enemies. You and I, we are only soldiers caught inside it." She blinked, startled by the words. No human had ever spoken of war that way in her people's stories. To them, humans were born of war, lived for war, and thrived in blood. Yet here stood one who spoke as though war was a burden, not a prize. He moved to a console at the wall and opened a hidden compartment. From it, he pulled another small case. Not food this time, but a kit of strange tools, human medicine again. He motioned for her to sit on the narrow bench fixed to the wall. Jira's muscles tensed. She hissed, "I told you I will not take your poison." He did not argue. Instead, he opened the kit and began preparing the instruments with steady hands. "You do not have to trust me, but your wounds are killing you faster than my kind ever could. Infection does not care about sides. Infection does not wait." She narrowed her eyes. "And what do you care if I die?" For the first time, his gaze shifted. He paused, the tool in his hand trembling just slightly before he steadied it again. His voice grew lower, quieter. "Because I have buried enough soldiers. Too many of them were my own. I will not add another to the ground if I can stop it." The words caught her off guard. His tone was not the sharp edge of command. It was heavy, carrying sorrow. Before she could respond, the ship jolted violently. She stumbled and pain tore through her side. She pressed a hand against her ribs and felt the warm, sticky wetness of blood. Her body betrayed her once more. The man stepped forward quickly, kneeling before her. His scarred face was close now, his voice steady but urgent. "Let me close the wound, or you will bleed out before the battle outside ends." Her pride screamed no. Her survival whispered yes. Her claws hovered near his face, a warning, but she slowly sank onto the bench. "If you harm me," she growled. "I won't," he said simply. With practiced care, he worked. The sting of human medicine burned her skin, sharp as fire. She clenched her teeth, refusing to cry out. His hands were steady, precise, not the hands of a torturer, but of someone who had done this many times. She found herself watching his face. His eyes did not shine with cruelty. They shone with focus, with duty. Finally, he pressed a final patch over her wound. "It will hold. You will feel stronger soon." Zira's chest heaved as she stared at him, searching for the hidden trap. The mocking smile, the cruel laugh, the sign that her people's stories were true. But there was none. Only that calm, wary face. She whispered, almost against her will, "Why?" He met her gaze, unflinching. "Because once someone saved me when I expected death. I owe that debt every day of my life." The silence that followed was heavier than the alarms outside. For the first time, Zira did not know what to feel. Fear still gripped her. Distrust still burned. But underneath, buried like a spark in the dark, was something new, doubt. Were the humans truly monsters, or had her people lied to her all along? The ship shook again. The alarms rose louder. He stood and offered his hand once more. "Come. If you want to live, stay close. I will not let them take you." Her claws hovered, her pride roared, but her body moved almost on its own. Slowly, carefully, she took his hand. The unknown had never been closer. The ship groaned like a dying beast. Explosions rattled the walls and alarms howled through the corridors. Smoke hissed from broken panels, filling the air with a bitter stench. Shira clung to the wall for balance, her claws scraping metal. The medicine had closed her wounds, but her strength had not yet returned. Beside her, the human commander moved with sharp purpose. His armor caught the red light of warning sirens as he led her deeper into the ship. His pace was fast, but not careless. Every step seemed calculated. Zira's chest burned with every breath. She forced her voice out, sharp and accusing. "This is your trap, isn't it? You heal me only so I can die fighting for you." The man glanced back at her, his eyes steady even as the ship trembled. "I healed you because you were dying. What you do now, that is your choice." Choice. Again that word, a word she had never believed humans knew. They reached a junction where soldiers rushed past in waves. Humans in dark armor shouted orders, carried weapons, ran toward the battle. None of them stopped to cage her, none of them Eve. And looked at her. They only followed the commander's path. Her stomach twisted. Why did they not treat her as an enemy? Did they not see her as a prisoner, or had the commander lied to them too? Suddenly, the ship shuddered harder than before. The floor pitched beneath her feet and she stumbled. A deafening crack echoed through the hull as if the ship itself had been split open. The commander caught her arm, steadying her. His voice was low but firm. "They are boarding." Her heart froze. Boarding. She knew that word well. Another force had latched onto the ship, cutting its way inside. And if she guessed right, it was not her people. No, the Vayari fought humans face to face, not like thieves in the dark. These attackers were someone else. "Who?" she demanded. His jaw tightened. "Scavengers, raiders, they kill anything that breathes." Zira's blood ran cold. Raiders were known across the stars. They did not care for war or honor. They stripped ships like bones, taking metal, weapons, and lives. To them, alien or human made no difference. Prey was prey. The commander pulled a weapon from the wall, a sleek rifle of human design. He checked its charge, then turned to her. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with sharp intensity. "You have fought before. I can see it in your stance. I can leave you here in safety, or you can fight beside me." Her mouth curled into a bitter smile. "Fight with a human? My people would curse my name." He stepped closer, holding out a smaller weapon, short, heavy, designed for close combat. "Then live long enough for them to curse you, or die here and give them nothing." The ship shook again. From the corridor ahead came the metallic shriek of cutting tools. Sparks showered the floor as raiders carved their way inside. Voices echoed, cruel, guttural laughter that made her skin crawl. Her claws flexed against her palms. The urge to run surged through her, but where could she run? Raiders would kill her as quickly as they killed humans. Her gaze fell to the weapon in his hands. He waited, etched, arm extended, no force, no chains. Only the same impossible word, choice. Her people's voices thundered in her head. "Never trust a human. They are liars. They are killers. They are the true enemy." But the sounds ahead, the screams, the grinding metal, the laughter of raiders, those were no lies. That was death coming for them both. Her heart raced as she reached out. Her claws brushed the cold metal of the human weapon. She snatched it from his hand, her voice low and dangerous. "If you betray me, I will end you first." He only nodded. "Fair." The wall ahead burst open. Raiders poured through, hulking, masked, their armor jagged like bone. They howled as they charged, weapons raised. The commander raised his rifle. "Stay behind me. Watch my back." For a heartbeat, Zira hesitated. Then instinct took over. She bared her teeth, gripped the weapon, and let the fire of battle burn through her veins once more. The corridor erupted into chaos. Bolts of energy lit the air, screams rang out, metal shattered under the force of impact. Zira moved as if pulled by something deeper than thought. She struck, fast and fierce, her weapon cracking through raider armor. One fell, then another. Her body remembered the rhythm of war, and for the first time since her capture, she felt alive. Beside her, the human commander fought with brutal precision. He moved like a storm, each shot clean, each strike final. And yet, when one raider lunged at her from behind, it was his hand that shoved her aside, his body taking the hit instead. He grunted, fired point blank, and the raider collapsed. Zira froze. He had shielded her. A human, her enemy, had chosen her life over his own. The battle raged, but her mind spun with the weight of that single truth. When the last raider fell, silence crashed down heavier than the alarms. Smoke drifted through the corridor, bodies littered the floor. Her chest heaved as she lowered the weapon, her claws trembling. The commander leaned against the wall, his armor scorched, his shoulder bleeding, yet his eyes still carried the same steady fire. He looked at her, breathing hard, and said only, You fought well. She could not speak. Her throat was tight, her thoughts a storm. For the first time, she wondered if the greater danger was not the raiders, not even the humans, but the seed of doubt now taking root in her heart. The corridor stank of smoke and scorched flesh. Sparks popped from torn wires above, throwing brief flashes of light over the dead raiders. Their jagged armor clattered as the ship's vibrations settled into a lower hum. The storm had passed, but the silence it left was sharp, heavy. Zira stood among the fallen, her claws tight around the human weapon. Her chest heaved with every breath. The taste of battle still burned on her tongue, bitter and familiar. For the first time since her capture, her body had remembered what it meant to fight. But the strangest thing of all was not the battle. It was who she had fought beside. Her eyes slid to the commander. He leaned against the wall, blood running from his shoulder, dark against his armor. His rifle hung loose in his grip, barrel still smoking. And yet his face, scarred and weary, carried no triumph, only focus. She hissed softly, part warning, part confusion. You saved me. His pale eyes met hers, calm as ever. You saved me first. The word struck her harder than the raiders' blades. She wanted to deny it, to spit out her old truths. Humans were selfish. Humans never risked themselves for others. Humans killed because it was in their nature. But the memory burned too clear. When the raider had charged him, it was her claws that had torn the beast away. When another had come for her back, it was his hand that shoved her aside, his body taking the blow. Blood bound them now, not chains. She lowered her weapon slowly, her voice tight. Why? He pushed himself upright, wincing but steady. Because in battle, there is no human or Vayari. There are only those who stand with you and those who try to end you. Her chest tightened. The simplicity of his words unsettled her more than the fight itself. For her people, war was honor, war was pride, war was the song of ancestors. For him, it was survival, and survival, it seemed, was something he was willing to share with her. He stepped forward, then faltered slightly. His wound pulled at him. Without thinking, Shira caught his arm, steadying him. The touch shocked them both. His armor was warm under her claws, and for a brief instant he leaned into her strength. You bleed too much, she muttered. His mouth curved, not quite a smile, more a grim acknowledgement. So do you. Silence lingered between them, broken only by the distant groans of the ship. She released him quickly, unsettled by the strange calm between them. The commander motioned for her to follow. They moved deeper into the ship, stepping over fallen raiders. The corridors were scarred, but the humans held the line. Soldiers saluted him as they passed, some casting curious glances at her, but none challenged his decision to let her walk free. Every nod they gave him struck her harder. They trusted him without question. And if they trusted him, did that mean she had to too? They reached a sealed chamber. Inside, the lights were dim, the air thick with the smell of burned metal. He slumped onto a bench, finally allowing his rifle to rest at his side. He gestured for her to sit across from him. Shira hesitated, then lowered herself onto the cold bench. Her weapon stayed in her lap, claws tapping against it in restless rhythm. The commander finally spoke, his voice low. You fight with precision. Training? She narrowed her eyes. I was a soldier before your kind slaughtered my people. His gaze held steady. Then we are the same. The words stung. She wanted to deny them, to snarl that they could never be the same, but she remembered the way he moved in battle, controlled, scarred by experience, carrying loss. It was not the movement of a predator. It was the movement of someone who had bled for too long. She said nothing. Instead, he reached into his armor and pulled out a small flask. He drank once, then passed it to her. The gesture stunned her more than the raider's attack. Suspicion burned first. Poison. Trick. Test. But when she caught his expression, there was nothing but exhaustion. A soldier's quiet ritual after surviving death. Slowly, she lifted the flask to her lips. The liquid inside burned, sharp and hot, but it cleared her throat and warmed her chest. She coughed once, and his scarred mouth twitched almost like amusement. For someone who claims to be my enemy, she said, voice rough, you are strange. He leaned back, eyes closing briefly. For someone who claims to be my prisoner, you fight like an ally. The words hung between them like a fragile bridge, not yet strong enough to cross, but enough to see the other side. Jira gripped the weapon tighter. She did not want to admit it, but the truth whispered inside her chest. In the chaos of battle, she had trusted him, trusted his steps, his aim, his presence at her side. For a heartbeat, they had been more than enemies. They had been survival bound together. Her people's voices still screamed in her head. Never trust a human. They are liars. They are killers. But the memory of his body taking a blow meant for hers. That memory screamed louder. As the ship's alarms finally began to fade, she sat in silence across from him, caught between two truths. For the first time, Zira wondered if her greatest enemy was not the humans, not the raiders, not even the war. Perhaps her greatest enemy was the wall inside her heart. The hum of the ship was quieter now. Repairs had begun, and the echoes of war retreated into the distance. Zira sat in silence inside the dim chamber, her claws resting on the weapon she had yet to return. The air was heavy with smoke and the sharp scent of metal. Across from her, the commander bound his shoulder with a strip of white cloth. His movements were steady, practiced, almost careless, as though pain was a companion he had long accepted. Zira's eyes narrowed. She had fought beside him, trusted him for the length of a battle, but trust could be a trap. Her people's voices whispered in her mind. Humans twist truth. They show kindness to hide the knife. At last she broke the silence. Why save me? You risked your life when you could have left me to die. He tied the cloth tight and looked at her. His pale eyes carried no pride, only weight. Because you deserve to know the truth before you choose how to die or how to live. The words chilled her. Truth? You think I will believe anything you say? He did not argue. Instead, he reached into a compartment in the wall and pulled out a small black device. With a touch, it flickered to life, projecting images into the air. Zira's breath caught. The hologram showed Vayari ships, her people's ships, rising into the stars. Their banners burned with the mark of the clans. But then, she saw something impossible. Those same ships firing not on humans, but on Vayari outposts. No, she whispered, shaking her head. This is false. A trick. His voice was steady, almost too calm. It is real. Your leaders began this war, not us. They wanted more territory. They told you humans attacked first, but they lied. Her claws dug into the bench, leaving deep marks in the metal. Lies. Humans always lie. He stepped closer, the light of the hologram flickering across his scarred face. Look closely. Do you see the battle codes? The clan signatures? Those cannot be forged. These are your own. Her chest heaved. She wanted to deny it, to shut her eyes and erase the images, but she knew the symbols. She had worn them in battle. She could not unsee them. Still, her pride fought. If this is true, then why? Why would my leaders do this? His gaze did not waver. Because war gives them power. Fear keeps their people united. If you believe humans are monsters, you will fight without question. You will bleed for them while they feast on your loyalty. The words sank into her like blades. Memories flashed. The elder speeches, the endless chants of hate, the pride of marching into battles she never fully understood. Had all of it been a lie? Her voice cracked, softer now. And what of you? Why should I believe a human commander? For the first time, his mask shifted. His jaw tightened, his eyes darkened with memory. Because once, I was fed the same lies. I was told the Vayari were beasts, incapable of honor, incapable of peace. I believed it. I fought you with hate, until... He trailed off. Zira's claws tapped against the weapon in her lap. Until what? His voice lowered, heavy with pain. Until I killed one who tried to surrender. A young soldier, barely old enough to hold a weapon. He begged for mercy, and I pulled the trigger. That night, I stopped believing the stories. Monsters do not beg. Monsters do not weep. The silence that followed pressed against her like a storm. He looked at her directly, unflinching. I will not lie to you, Zira. Humans have killed. I have killed. But so have your people. Both sides bathe in blood. The only monsters here are the ones who profit from it. Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream at him, to spit the denial back into his face. But deep inside, a dangerous seed was growing. Doubt. She remembered the way he had shielded her from a raider's strike, the way he had offered her food, medicine, and choice. None of it matched the picture of a monster painted by her people. She looked away, whispering to herself more than to him. If what you say is true, then my people are not victims. We are the killers. He did not speak, did not push. He simply let the silence weigh. At last, she raised her head, her eyes burning. Yasha, if I believe you, what then? What do you expect me to do? The commander sat back, his voice steady once more. I expect nothing. The choice is still yours. Hate me, kill me, return to your leaders, or stand with me. Change begins only when one voice dares to break the lie. Her claws tightened on the weapon. The choice was a blade pressed to her heart. If she returned with this truth, her people would call her traitor. If she stayed, she would walk among humans as an outcast. Either path could end her. Yet as she looked into his scarred face, she felt something more dangerous than fear. She felt the weight of hope. The chamber was silent except for the low hum of the ship's engines. Shira sat frozen, her claws tight on the weapon resting across her lap. The hologram of betrayal still glowed in the air, Vayari ships firing on their own outposts, leaders cloaked in lies. Her chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. Her people's voices screamed inside her head. Humans are liars, humans are killers. Never trust them. Yet her own eyes had seen the truth. She could not erase it. Across from her, the commander waited. He had turned off the projection, leaving only the dim lights between them. His pale eyes studied her, calm but sharp, as though he knew the storm inside her mind. Finally, she whispered, voice trembling, "If I go back with this knowledge, they will kill me. My own clan will call me traitor." He nodded once, slow and heavy. Yes, truth is dangerous, but lies kill more than blades. Her claws dug into the metal of the bench. She wanted to scream at him, curse him for shattering the only certainty she had left. But what good were screams against the weight of truth? She looked at him sharply. "And if I stay, what then? Do I live as your prisoner forever?" He leaned forward, his voice low, steady. "You are not a prisoner now. Not unless you choke. Oath to be. You fought beside me. You bled beside me. That makes you more than an enemy. It makes you an equal." The word struck her like lightning. Equal. No human had ever spoken such a thing in her people's tales. Her throat tightened. "My people will never believe this. They will never see you as equal." His scarred face softened, though his eyes held their steel. "Then you must decide who you fight for, your people's lies or your own truth." The silence stretched. Her claws trembled on the weapon. Her heart pounded. She thought of the raider's blade aimed at her back and his body taking the strike. She thought of the food left untouched, the medicine she almost refused, the words he spoke of choice. He had given her nothing she expected and everything she did not understand. Slowly, with a sound like thunder breaking in her chest, she lowered the weapon to the floor. Her claws slid away from its grip. She stood. The commander's eyes followed her, unreadable. Sira stepped closer, her movements stiff, uncertain. For a long moment, she only stood before him, her breath heavy. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, she extended her hand. Her claws trembled as they hovered in the air between them. A gesture no Vayari would ever give a human, a gesture that could never be taken back. The commander looked at her hand, then at her face. His scarred mouth curved into something faint, almost hidden. Not a smile of triumph, but of recognition. Slowly he reached out and clasped her hand in his own. The contact was firm, warm, real. Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "I braced for death at human hands. But what you did instead..." She swallowed, her throat tight. "It has changed me forever." The weight of those words hung between them, heavier than chains, stronger than weapons. For the first time, she was not bracing for death. She was bracing for life. But the moment did not last. The ship shuddered again, a deep vibration running through the hull. A voice crackled over the intercom. "Enemy fleet detected. Multiple Vayari ship. Is incoming. They're hailing us." Sira froze. Her people, her clan, the same leaders who fed her lies were now closing in. The commander released her hand but held her gaze. His voice was firm, steady, but heavy with the weight of choice. "This is it. You decide now. Stand with them, or stand with me." Her blood roared in her ears. If she returned to her people, she could live, but only in silence, chained to their lies. If she stayed, she would be hunted, hated, marked forever as traitor. The claws of fear pressed deep into her chest, but under it, a new fire burned, dangerous, fierce, alive. She turned toward the glowing console, the voice of her clan still echoing over the ship's systems. For the first time in her life, she did not hear leaders. She did not hear gods. She heard liars. Her eyes hardened. She looked back at the commander. "I will not fight for their lies. I will fight for truth." His pale eyes met hers, and in that look was something unspoken. Respect, trust, a bond sealed not by chains, but by choice. The intercom flared again, demanding an answer. Zira's claws hovered over the controls. She inhaled deeply, steadying herself. and with a single press, she cut the channel. Silence filled the chamber. Her people's voices were gone. Only her own remained. The commander rose, blood still staining his armor, but his presence steady as stone. He placed a hand on her shoulder, not to bind, not to control, but to acknowledge. Together they turned toward the future, a future filled with enemies on all sides, battles yet to come, and truths that would burn through every lie. But Zira no longer braced for death. She braced for the war of truth.